All right. Here we are. It's a Thursday night. Garbage night. Working on a card. Not garbage isn't bad, just it's the night that we take the garbage and recycling out. Compost. Good times. It's been a good night so far. And the night is young. Okay, so we're just gonna crack open this Zotac Amp Hollow Edition 3070 Ti. Hopefully you guys had a good day. Mine was decent. Did a bunch of testing. We streamed earlier on, applying the Upsiren U6 Pro, and now we're going to be taking it off and applying T-Global's A7000. Disclaimer, I should say that the A7000 I got off Amazon. So, you know what? I'm just looking at this card here. I don't know if you guys can see that. I'm gonna get the see if that's gonna work. I don't want there to be too much light. I'm gonna go to the close-up here. Okay, do you guys see the problem? I'm assuming you guys do. Yeah, so those VRAM chips with the Putty, see those little corners on the right hand side? There's that bottom chiplet. The top one's missing a little corner. We got the top row of 3 there. The one on the left, 2 corners, no coverage. Both the ones on the left are lacking coverage. Wow, not good. Not good for testing. We're gonna actually, sad to say, we are going to, I'm gonna redo this test, but I'm gonna have to, I am gonna do A7000 first, just because we need to, and then I'll do U6 Pro tomorrow, I think. Again, I mean, the numbers are good, but I just want to get accurate numbers, and this would be an unfair entrance, so sometimes that happens. You know what's wrong? The funny thing is, the last time I was testing U6 Pro, I used too much, right? I had contact issues with the core. I think that's how I had it. So we're going to clean this up for now, and we'll just go forward with the plan of the A7000, and because that's what people are coming here to see. This would be a pretty boring stream if we just slapped the card back together with U6 and called it a night, so gotta follow through with what we said we were gonna do. And I'm gonna redo the numbers for U6 tomorrow sometime. I'll test it in the morning, but let's get this card cleaned up. Would this be better than the Upsiren ones? The A7000? I'm not sure. It's hard to say. This was Upsiren U6 Pro that was on, that we just scooped off there. I don't know if you, yeah, you probably saw little missing corners on the VRAM, so I need to redo that test just to give it a fair, complete entrance, because that's not full contact with the VRAM, so it's possible that could affect it just ever so slightly. And yeah, we're going to try and do fair testing of all of this stuff. So the A7000 is a putty made by T-Global. When TGPP10 got discontinued by T-Global, I contacted T-Global themselves via email, and I was like, hey, you know, TGPP10 is so awesome, like, why are you guys discontinuing, and you know, what's a good replacement? And I explained that I use it for cards and stuff, and they said A7000 would be our next best option. I'll have to look back at that email. I'm trying to remember if they also recommended TGNSP 80. I'm not sure, which wouldn't make sense to recommend that because it conducts electricity, so it's not suitable for video cards unless you use extreme caution. So this stuff, again, like I said, I bought it from Amazon because it came in small quantities. So if the testing is very bad, I might actually have to buy the real stuff just to be sure I'm giving it a fair shake, rather than just assuming that the stuff I got on Amazon is real. But it could be very good. It usually comes in large containers. The containers I got are just these tiny ones. The color is right. There's oh, sorry, I'll switch to overhead view. But the labeling kind of sucks. Even on this one. Make out a few words and I can see like A7000. I don't know if that's going to focus. It says A7000 there. Silicone type putty gel. Blah, blah, blah. So we're going to test it out and hope that it's real. And if the results are good, I'm going to assume that it is real. And if the results are bad, I'm going to be up in the air about knowing what to do, but I'll end up buying it and testing it again. Not because I want it to be the best putty, but because it would be unfair to assume that the stuff I buy on Amazon is real. But it's what we're going to test tonight. You know, in hindsight, I guess it would have made more sense to test out the T-Putty 607, but I think it's a little too late to change the plan, so we got to go with it. Lucido Palustri, hopefully I pronounced that right. Thanks. I was looking at your Upsiren PCM1 video, and I can see some black stuff on the CPU IHS. Is that a burnt PCM or not? I don't think so. Was that on the... That must have been on the CPU. Trying to think. Do I have a way of checking that? I do. I'm going to just take a glance at the PCM. Excuse me. I think I see what you're looking at. Let's see. Is that at the 604 mark, probably? I don't believe those are burn marks. I believe... What is going on there? Let's see. I think it's just little... Huh, I'm going to have to go back and look at that. Just watching myself scrape it off here. Actually, I think it's I could be wrong. I think it's shadows. 6 minutes. Let me check here again. You're probably looking at that picture on the right that I'm assuming at like 6:04. I don't believe those are... I don't believe that's burnt material. But I can go back and take another gander at that, take a look and see. Interesting. Okay. Well, let's clean this bad boy up. Good thing is I'll be retesting PTM 7950 and PCM1 on this test bench 2 setup where I'm finally logging ambient temperatures, recording in HW info. So I'll have all of these results I would call more accurate than any testing I've previously done with this new test bench version 2. That's what I'm calling it right now. If I make changes, well, if I make minor changes, it'll be, 2.1, 2.2. If I make a platform change or another significant change, then we would call it a version 3, I think. I'll have to look back at that PCM stuff. I basically did 2 or 3 applications and tests with it on that, so I can go back through my photos, which I should have lots of, and heck, we might even be able to do that on stream here in a little bit. Do I expect a big difference between the 7958 and 7950? My gut tells me that, yeah, there's going to be a 2 to 3 degree difference with the 7958 being better. I mean, for Lenovo, a retailer, well, and manufacturer, to use an industrial grade phase change material and then say, hey Honeywell, can you customize it for us? We want it just slightly different, add this, do that, whatever. And they would have gone back and forth testing different revisions of that and seeing what worked, and then basically calling it 7958. They must have done that for a reason. They would have invested time and energy instead of just using an off-the-shelf, so it must have been worth it. Otherwise, they would have just gone with the regular stuff, since it would be cheaper just to go with the 7950 rather than customizing an existing product. That's my opinion, and from what the guys on the Lenovo Legion Discord have mentioned is that they've noticed, I'm pretty sure they have noticed a couple of degrees different when they go to repad, and then they only initially had access to the 7950. So that's what they used, and it was just slightly worse off than the 7958. But I should really go back and double check that that's what the case was. But either way, we're going to test it out, as I do have the paste form of 7958. I just don't have the sheet form, unfortunately. I don't know if it makes sense to well, it might someday, for me to buy like a big 1 kg pail of PTM 7958 paste and then start making my own sheets of this stuff. That'd be cool. I don't know when I'm gonna have time to do that, because this is just a hobby, guys. I've got a different job that I do. Let's see here. Just a sec, guys, sorry. Okay. That's a nice thing about Upsiren U6 Pro. It is extremely easy to clean up compared to some of the stickier putties I was testing in the last 2 days here. Like that LK Pro stuff was, wow, it was messy. And yet I'd still take that over the, what was that, something scientific one that I did. It's a weird thing when you're streaming, it's actually hard to like think about stuff, especially when I'm trying to clean a video card. I'll lose track of like names of things. Still remember my name, Snark. At least that's the one I'm telling you guys, so. Justin Vasquez, welcome to the stream, buddy. Ambient temp 27.9. 65. Sorry, I'm just gonna go back. Is paste form of PTM easier to apply than pad form? No, the pad form is definitely the way to go. And honestly, you know, pick whatever you want. You can go with Honeywell PTM. You could buy Upsiren PCM1. From my previous testing, they have the same performance, and we will test them again. But the latest batch of PCM1 that I got from Upsiren, it's nice. It has, you know what, let me just let me quick grab it and I'll show you guys because it's cool. Okay, and then we're just going to answer Justin Vasquez's question or comment. We're going to look at it. Ambient temperature 27.9 degrees Celsius, 65 on the core, 84 on the VRAM while pushing 269 watts through my card with U6 Pro. Can't wait to see how it compares to your numbers. Yeah, I mean, that's I'm going to say that's, well, with that ambient, that's crazy. That's pretty high ambient. Those are good numbers, man. Again, I'm gonna have to retest it. Justin, you came a bit late, and I probably cleaned up the stuff already. But if you go back, and you can go back later if you want, there was little spots on the corners of the VRAM that were blank and didn't have coverage on. Let's see, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 or 6 of the VRAM. So I'm gonna have to redo the U6 Pro testing. But yeah, you got good numbers there. And Justin Vasquez again. And the paste PTM has to be cured. So yeah, you got to cure it for 24 hours. Okay, I want to show you guys this again. I mean, I'm not an affiliate of Upsiren, but wow, I use a lot of their products. So this is what it comes. It's got, you know, wipes and a little mini flat. No, that's a little star screwdriver. Phillips, little spreader, cool brush. You know, I should actually use this brush. That'd be good. Another spreader. Anyways, you don't even need that. You don't need any of that. This stuff's great. So this is big enough to do, I think this is 80 by 80 millimeters. So cut 4 ways. This will do 4 AMD CPUs and to double check my math, but it might do up to 6 Intels. I'll have to double check that, but or maybe it'd only do 3. Is it 30 by 50, I think? But either way. So this stuff, we're just gonna, we'll open it up a little bit. This is the PCM1 Taylor. Thanks for joining the stream. I'm just showcasing what the last batch of PCM1 that I got has. And what it has, you see this? See those little flaps sticking out? Ingenious. This is perfect. Wow, okay, I'm still struggling here. But that's because I got meaty fingers. So it's really easy to peel the first layer. It doesn't matter which corner. Obviously these ones will be a little bit easier. Even more so. You don't even need to use... Initially you don't need to use these little blue sticker things, right? But then once you cut a corner off, maybe you would, let's say you cut this corner here, you'd put your little... stick that on that corner, that way you'd have 2 points to grab it onto. So it's ingenious and is going to save a lot of hassle for anyone that gets it in this form. So yeah, I'm just going to put that back there. So yeah, I'm pretty excited about that. Because I've applied the stuff, well, probably a dozen times now, I guess, close to it, and yeah, it's always, it's a little bit finicky. It takes finesse to get it just right. Okay, we are just about cleaned up. Let me just double check everything here. Here's what I just thought of. There are cards that I have. I believe it's the EVGA 3080XC3, where this cold plate is like just a piece that screws down and onto another like cold plate, and they didn't have any thermal interface material between those two plates, and so I'm pretty sure I used paste. I'm gonna have to open up that card, but I should put phase change in there and just be conscious of the initial 0.2 millimeter thickness increase. I guess I'd have to be careful with contact pressure, which I could go light on the screws initially till it melts and then crank them down a little further. I might do that at some point. Be an interesting experiment. So okay, we did all 3 of these TGPP10s. I did that one by hand, so we're just gonna do like a dry sweep, and we'll go for paste. Taylor Sharp says, pro tip for the peeling of the second film, drag a plastic card or guitar pick around the edges of the die and it will cut the PTM. That's a really good point, making it super easy to peel. Oh yeah, cool. I'm gonna have to do, I know exactly what you're saying. That is something I'm going to do from now on. Now, this is a great community coming together, finding the best ways to cool our stuff. Because we can't trust the likes of NVIDIA and AMD to do it for us. Sometimes they get it right, and sometimes do they ever get it wrong. Okay, we'll do another dab of this stuff. Middle also has a storefront on Newegg for Upsiren. They did mention that to me today. Today or yesterday? It was this morning. I had a few emails back and forth. No, I feel like that might have been yesterday. I'll have to double check, guys. Lots of stuff going on. Yes, Middleland also mentioned they are selling on Amazon, but I don't have the link to that either. And you do have to be cautious because, well, I don't know. I don't want to say too much and get myself in trouble. But I think you guys know there's 2 entities claiming trademark, copyright, or creation of... Oh, what am I doing? I gotta load the syringe first. Of U6 Pro. And it's a bit of a shakedown, but we're gonna get to the bottom of it at some point. So I should mention, for those just tuning in, that this is A7000, but this is stuff I bought off Amazon, which is not ideal because there's like a bit of oil, but that was just on the outside of the wrapper. I don't think that's anything to do with the putty. So the plan is I'm going to test this A7000, and if the results are good, then I'm going to assume that it's the real stuff. And if the results are terrible, I'm going to assume that it might not be the right stuff and I need to go and buy straight from DigiKey. So let's check for continuity. Justin Vasquez, I'm using PTM the same way between the 2 cold plates. It's a great thermal bridge. Alright, so wow, this stuff is very, well, liquidy. It doesn't conduct electricity. So that's good. This is going to be a messy one. Wrong end. Sorry, I was just looking at how it was flopping around. Gotta play with stuff to really get a sense for it, you know? Justin Vasquez says, I'm gonna miss EVGA. They always went the extra mile for the cards. Totally, man. You know, we lost so much when EVGA shut their doors on GPUs, motherboards, power supplies. Well, power supplies, we still got it. Don't worry about trying to buy the last few EVGA T2 or P2 or P3, G2, G3. I get them all. Power supplies, those are made by Superflower, and the non-G, the first gen and the 4th gens, and I think most of the 5th gens are all made by Fortin Source Power. But those 2 generations, the 2nd and the 3rd, made by Superflower, were very highly regarded power supplies. They're just the over voltage, over power, over temperature, all the protections are just solid. Very good power supplies. Okay, this is a this is not a heavy clay-like putty. This is a soft, light. It's a little bit lighter than the other putties I've been testing. You know, another thing that bugs me about EVGA leaving is they stopped selling their thermal putty, which I have so little data or anything on. Just was like, you know, buying little syringes of 8 grams right off their store on evga.com on the store, but not having any specs or anything. And here I was trying to find a TGPP10 replacement, and I was just like, well, it's not going to be EVGA putty. There's no specs, there's nothing. And it ended up being basically one of the best putties that we've seen. So okay, oh, I just dropped some there. There's going to be some wastage, there usually is. But let me get this. Wow, that's going to apply really easily. Okay, this is going to be upside down for you guys, but let's just roll with it here. $69. Okay, just a moment here. Let's take a look at the spec sheet for this stuff. Let's go to the media. Hopefully you guys can still hear me. Yeah, I think I've got the right thing going there. Let's go Firefox. Okay, so this is the DigiKey website that I didn't buy it from, but I might need to, because it's 141 Canadian for a single unit of the 55cc, and that is I believe that's the smallest quantity. Now we go to the spec sheet here. This is what it's, yeah, they don't even use pneumatics, sorry, they use this is like a hand application, but you could use it in an automated scenario too. But look at that density. Ooh, 3.25. So it's not 3.5, so I'm not expecting this to be the best putty. Now TGPP10 was around that 3 to 3.2, even though they claimed 1.2. I contacted DigiKey when they still had some left, and I was like, hey, what's up with the density? It seems off for how much we get in a container. And they were like, oops, like it's, yeah, someone when they were writing a spec sheet messed up. So A7000 Amazon, just so I remember this is the Amazon one in case I need to buy the other one. You know, they've also got TG6060, which I've got some of. Blue instead of green. And interesting, higher density than A7000. 3.3 instead of 3.25. That might be worth testing next. Or we've got layered T-Putty 607. And wow, it's coming in at a heavy hitter, 3.45 grams per cc. So that should be pretty good. Excuse me, sorry for coughing, you guys. Let's go back. All right. So we've got somewhere there. Let me just put some lids on this stuff before I make a bit of a mess. Oh, that actually made a mess. Now I've got putty on my fingers. Not the first time. Alright. Let's see how this stuff applies. Do you guys like the overhead view or the close-up? Maybe I can get the close-up just right. Let's do the close-up for application. So I'm gonna go past the end of the VRAM because I don't want to mess up and not have enough to get full coverage, which is what happened to U6 Pro tonight, unfortunately. Something I theorized about, but wasn't paying close enough attention to, obviously, on the previous stream. It's very easy to press this stuff out. I'm just being cautious I don't go too fast or too slow. Yeah, this stuff's gonna have no problem squeezing out. If this stuff is decent, this would be a good putty to use with shims. Excuse me. Okay, let's weigh this stuff. Tailor Sharp, fortunately the memory die is much smaller than the plastic package. Luisito Palistri, isn't that too much? No, that's the right amount we want. Well, it's just a little bit too much right here, but it's going to be okay. I'm aiming for 6mm diameter. That looks like maybe it would have been 6, but I squished it up a bit, so it's about probably averaging 7. There's going to be a little bit excess, but nothing crazy. When we assemble the card, we can take a look. Okay, so oh, sorry, let me go back to overview. 52 left from 69, so we got 17 that we used. Is that right? 52, 54, yeah. Of course, I shouldn't be holding it. We're gonna say 53, 69, 16 grams. Yeah, I guess that's about right. I mean, I used a little bit excess right here, so. Realistically, I'll probably, you know, test all this stuff, and once we have a good sampling, probably pick the top however many of each category, whether it's pads, putties, and shim combos, test them all again, and then go from there. Okay, this is the part I struggle to do on streams, but oh yeah, got a little bit of putty, came off, that's okay. All right. So, those of you that have watched a number of these streams already, you might get bored of me talking about this, but those of you just joining, I always do these corner screws to align the card first with the back plate and the cooler. I don't tighten them all the way, I just start them. That way if those line up, then these four definitely will. Yeah, so the putty has got to fill that 1.8mm gap, which we can calculate out. Volumetrically for a cylinder, and compare that to 1.8mm times 15, because the VRAM is 15mm long, and they're stacked with that beside each other So it ends up being 15 by however long that strip of VRAM is. And the putty doesn't conduct electricity, so we're not worried about it getting on the PCB and damaging anything. And just as a practice, I like to have a little bit of excess going around the edges of the VRAM. For a scenario that you guys can imagine, if a putty were to dry out and maybe even shrink, if it's like, let's say it's a bad putty or something, and it shrinks, then it could get loose and might want to like fall. And having those little excesses around the VRAM is going to hold it in place. At least that's my theory. Now, I haven't had putty fall out of a card yet, but Ghost Motley did have some that fell out of one of his cards, and he emailed me about that, so sent me some pictures. So it's something to be cautious of. Guess it would help if I got one of the screws. So it's a Thursday night. I'm assuming some of you guys, well, for me it's a Thursday night. I don't know what time zone everyone's in. But if you guys want to stick around, and you don't have to, you can always watch it later too. Or not watch it all, whatever, but I might crack apart another card after I get this on the test bench. At least that's what I'm probably going to start doing now. I'm just going to take a moment and put this on the test bench. And actually, I've got time. I'm just going to set it aside for now. And we're going to do the other card right now. And we can chat and stuff while we're doing it. EVGA, let's go. Alright. This is an EVGA RTX 3080 10 gig. It's funny how many versions of the 3080 they had. 10 gig, 3080 Ti, and then the 12 gig. And then there was those, what? Was it 16 gig ones? That NVIDIA sold directly to miners by the pallet. Pretty brutal stuff. Pretty brutal. It's a dense, heavy card. It uses the nice spring in the back. How'd the U6 do better than CX-H1300? Taylor, you missed the start of the stream. I totally messed up. And the VRAM didn't have perfect coverage on like 5 or 6 of the VRAM chips. There was like, noticeable corners without coverage, and the results were decent, but I got to do the test again tomorrow. I'm going to get this A7000 tested out, and then I will redo U6 Pro, which I feel bad that I didn't apply enough. So that's why I'm going over past the VRAM when I apply now. So we are going to, let's see, I get to leave those two. So these two I get to leave, and the rest I have to take out. And we will do this last, I think. This is a card that I used shims on. Shims and TGPP10. So we're going to look at this. This stuff has been on here for probably, honestly, I'll have to look back. This is also the one where I used TGPP10 on the core. And this is the one that had the, you know, the couple degrees warm. Should I be taking this apart? Yeah, because we can properly test that again. We don't need to... Yeah, I'll do like a fresh test with Putty on the core. What I want to do is see what this stuff looks like now that it's been sitting there for quite a while. Taylor, we'll give you this though. It's going to be a close race between the U6 Pro and the CX-H1300. Really, there's not much bad to say about either putty, and I think they do both have their applications, and they are slightly different. If I was doing shims, I would go with, well, whatever the lighter putty or lower viscosity putty would be. Then again, when doing shims, the pure performance of the putty almost doesn't matter, and it's more so it just staying liquid for the duration. In which case, you've got options to do all sorts of putties. So this card is very likely to be dirtier than my test card. So I left those two because they connect just to the PCB. We might crack open the back at some point too. I just want to look at the core first though. So we've got fans here, 3 of them. You know what I'm going to try? No, we're going to get those once we have it off. I'm going to open it like this and fold it. I'm going to try to. Do I have all the screws? All the ones that I want to take off, yes. Okay, perfect. We're going to go like this, and then... Oh, brutal. There's another little connector there that's kind of silly. Okay. And then, wow. I can't believe I didn't break those connectors. They're nice and color coded, but luckily the tabs are still there. Okay, so this is fairly old. Wow, sorry guys. What a mess. Don't mind the fur ball. So what are we looking at here? We are looking at nice copper cold plate capped on tape. We got some TGPP10, we got shims. Let's get some finger gloves on. Here comes the plastic case of the memory chips. Plastic case. I'm having a brain fart and can't comprehend what you're saying, but I think it's just me. Is plastic case a way to describe fluidity? All right, where to start? The putty. I just need to get something or other here. So we're going to use this for garbage. And we're going to save. Let me just go grab a container to put the TGPP10 in. Oh, the memory chips are silicon encased in that black resin plastic. You know, that definitely makes sense. So I suppose that would explain why my testing of copper and aluminum shims were the same results. So here we got some old TGPP10 that's pretty clay-like, pretty dense, but you know, and there's like a couple little dirty spots in there, but it looks, it's usable. It's just really firm. So that's where we're gonna save the usable stuff, and anything that's got dust or dirt on it we're gonna toss. Okay, we're gonna try saving this stuff. Oh, I just want to grab the stuff because it's usually easier to grab with your fingers, but I'm trying to keep it relatively clean. Okay, so this stuff we are going to just give a little trim. Toss the dirty stuff. Yeah. Oh, okay. Let's look at the core contact here. Getting ahead of myself. So this is TGPP10. That was on this core the whole time. Let's see if we can get a close up, eh? And yeah. Oh my gosh. Still liquidy, very thin coat, still spreads. That's crazy. So, I mean, it makes sense. The core temperature would be cooler than the VRAM. You know, we're in the 60s range, not the 80s and 90s range. So that makes sense that the putty isn't going to be crazy baked or anything. Which we're starting to realize that, you know, putty can bake and solidify with super, you know, high density heat. Well, I should retract that comment. The viewer that I was talking to about that today mentioned that the TGPP10 they bought and noticed hardening was stuff they bought off Amazon, and they were curious whether the person they bought it from had cut it with something, because it was way softer than they were expecting, and this person had been using TGPP10 for a number of years. So, and again, I've had TGPP10 get hard with my Asus Tough card. You know, if anything, I was expecting maybe the TGPP10 on the VRAM, the shims, but it is still soft. So if it can handle being that thin and being used 24/7 for what, a year? It was being, at least, then that's pretty good. Taylor Sharp says, with my old GDR5 mining cards, you could see the outline of the silicone in the plastic case, and it's about a quarter the size of the entire package. Okay. So that plastic case stuff, that must be like a bedding, similar to like a bedding material for electronics, and be somewhat conductive, like maybe in the range of, well, I don't know, 1 to 2 watts per meter Kelvin, I would assume. Oh, that stuff's dirty. We're going to toss that. Okay, I think I've salvaged all that I want to. Now we're going to take the shims off and clean up the card. So, you know, for all my effort in applying Kapton tape, as a precaution, nothing shifted around, nothing moved. The putty, more than anything, held this stuff in place. In fact, the Kapton tape moved, but the putty and the shim stayed on. That's nice to see, eh? Nice in there. Okay, so this stuff is, I will say it's slightly, no, it's still malleable. It is just slightly crumbly, but like all of this putty is a little drier, but it is still crumbly, not crumbly, still soft enough to reshape and reuse. Now, I wouldn't use it on shims again. Anytime you're doing shims, you do want to have very soft putty that you're using, which this stuff was when I first used it, I believe. Okay. What do you guys think? Should we go straight putty on this 3080? Or should we use the shims again? I mean, part of me thinks use the shims because we're already taped up and nothing moved and everything would be okay. But I could test out this with U6 Pro with the shims and see how our success is there, or we could do... How about this? Other than EVGA, because I don't have enough, what putty do you guys think I should put on this card right now once we have it clean? I'm gonna let you guys decide. We could use any of the ones that I've... Well, do I have enough? Ooh, that's the only thing. It has to be one that I've got enough of to do. So I can't do the LK Pro or CXH 1300. I can't do that. I don't have enough of that to do the card. I've got enough T-Putty 607, TGPP10, JE8100, Upsiren U6 Pro, Upsiren UX Pro. We've got TG6060. We've got Lee Poly SH3 Putty. I mean, I need to test these all on the 3070 Ti. That is the test card, but just for fun, we could put something different on this one. And I'm willing to take a chance on if you guys have one that you'd like to see. And if no one picks one, then I'll probably do shims with U6 Pro and see how we make out with that. Bias towards as in like that's what you'd like to see? Yeah. You know, it's probably worth a shot. And you know, it'd be kind of fitting, especially since I messed up the U6 Pro application on the 3070 Ti twice, really. The first time using way too much months ago, and now that was last year even, and now this time not enough. Or did I use U6 Pro this year? I'll have to look back at the timeline. Does it look like the putty has oxidized the copper gold plate? No, not from where I'm standing, but I see that like discoloration. But let's just clean it up here and see if there's any color differences. It's hard to tell. I mean, the oils of the putty would have also prevented anything from happening to that area versus, well, theoretically, versus the area that wasn't. There is just the slightest. Let's see if we can get a close up. It's almost like watermarks. But I wouldn't call it any crazy chemical reaction in a negative way. Hard for me to say. I don't think there's anything crazy noticeable for damage. I've also opened up and reputtied paste this card a couple times, and I've actively scrubbed those areas, which I can personally see a crosshatch pattern on the core that I created, probably scrubbing a little too hard, which I try not to do now. You know, TGPP10 had a good thing going, and for the longest time it was the only putty that people talked about other than K5 Pro. Yeah. But look where we are now. We get to test all these different putties. Some of them that have existed for years, other ones that are fairly new. And we're better for it. We've got more options, price competition. Do you guys know how much I spent on 50 grams of U6 Pro from CSGR? 75 Canadian dollars for 50 grams. So it's $1.50 per gram Canadian. And the same day I bought 250 grams of U6 Pro from AliExpress for the same price. It was actually a $1 or $2 cheaper. And the AliExpress stuff already showed up after 12 days, which was a while ago. And we're still waiting on the CSGR. And when it arrives, we'll test it out. So, Mr. CSGR, or Madam, whoever is watching this video, if you guys would like to, I don't know, check the status of your orders and see if they've all shipped and if they're on their way. It'd be nice if there was a way to update or see an update on shipping. You know, looking back, I probably should have paid the 25 euros for faster shipping for that stuff, but wow, that was just a tough cookie to crunch. Yeah, so this is me cleaning thermal putty off the core. Alright, so we're going to use U6 Pro with shims. So that's pretty fitting, and I've got enough. Lucito Palestri, has any putties ever caused you problems, kill the GPU? No, not myself. But there was one person that used TG-NSP80 from T-Global, which does conduct electricity, and they fried their GPU. I think they sent it to a repair shop. I'm not sure what the outcome was. I think they ended up with some sort of warranty something. Can't be too sure. They might have like lied, probably, because you probably shouldn't use a electrically conductive thing on a card. And well, I guess people use liquid metal all the time. If you take the right precautions, you should be alright, but we're definitely playing with fire. No, so all the putties that I've tested other than TG-NSP80 have not conducted electricity. And I don't consider that audio acoustic sealant thing that I tested with a hot plate. I'm not considering that a putty. That was a test just for fun. That stuff might have conducted electricity. I'd have to go back and... well, I still have some. I could probably test that out. Okay, I think we're the step where I need a toothbrush, because this is not clean enough yet. Taylor Sharp says, weird story. Some guy I was trying to help on Reddit somehow fried his laptop when he tried using CX-H1300. I'm going to call it U0 because I've had it all over my cards and mobile VRAM. Yeah, I would tend to agree with you. It's probably something else they did. That is a... I probably used way too much isopropyl alcohol there, but... you know, I watched a couple of videos of... from CSGR. They've got a YouTube channel. And I'm intrigued. I don't know if I'm going to do it or not, but he had an electric toothbrush. And I'm scrubbing like what I consider to be pretty hard right now. I'm not like really putting my elbow into it or anything, but this is what I would consider fairly aggressive scrubbing. And they were like really scrubbing it. And the thing is, that is a computer repair service. So like they know the risks, and they were applying quite a bit of force. So it was just and it was like an electric toothbrush, which I guess would be similar to using an ultrasonic cleaner. But I just don't know if I'm willing to take that chance and do that. This is going to be a bit of a wet card. I'll be sure to let it all evaporate before I turn it on. Kaboom. This card's on fire, yo. The memory's cool, but the rest is not looking too good. Yeah, I just made a really big toothbrushy mess. Lucito Palistri, what is the benefit of pads over putty? Good question. So the benefit of pads, rather than doing what I do using putty, would be you can get them, some cards you can actually get pre-cut to shape and thickness, and you just open up your card and slap it together and hope that the seller or whoever did a good job measuring. And sometimes they do and sometimes they don't. I've got a buddy in Toronto who got some critical pads pre-cut for one of his cards, So the measurements and thicknesses were all supposed to be exact, and he ran into core contact issues because it's a very stiff pad. But I would say pads are cleaner than putty, right? I think we can all agree on that, unless they bake on, in which case you gotta scrub just as much as you do most putties. Can't remember if it was this card, but on the back plate when I was redoing it initially, the OEM pads had baked and crumbled on, and it took quite a bit of scrubbing with a toothbrush, just like I was doing there, to get it to come off. But yeah, pads have that convenience and cleanliness factor. Maybe I'll retract convenience, because I actually think it's just as convenient to buy, not even research the thicknesses, just go and buy some putty, crack a card open that you've never seen, and take measurements, then crunch some numbers if you want to. You don't even have to, but you can just eyeball it. You know, when in doubt, use 6mm or 1/4 inch for the VRAM. That's what I'd say. But you can take actual measurements. Maybe I'll make a calculator, and then people can use that to figure out how much putty to buy and stuff. It's probably a good idea. Thermal benefits. Well, let's take a look. We're going to look at some old data for a second. I think this should work. So I'm just going to go to media, turn the Firefox off, got photos open. Let me just see if I can find my chart. Does that show up here? Oh, photos. Interesting. I don't know why that's not showing up. Just a second, guys. I'm just gonna get this open with photos. Doesn't show up either. Okay, back to Firefox. Got another way we can do this. YouTube. Yeah, it's not bad. I'm only one under Half-Life. I'll take it. Okay, probably... Oh, sorry. Let's click on the channel first, and then we'll go to the videos. And we are going to... I think this is the most recent one. I'll try and mute it right away here. Okay, so this is a chart we're not going to use anymore, obviously, but this is the old test chart. And let's just look at the top. So we got copper shims and Pentium TH949-1. We've got, oh, we can pause that. Aluminum shims, TGPP10, copper shims, TGPP10, and then Upsiren U6 Pro, or sorry, Upsiren UX Pro coming in fourth with a memory junction temperature of 80 degrees Celsius. Then we've got EVGA putty, it's actually tied with UX Pro. So those are both tied in fourth, really. And then we've got Upsiren 3D graphite pads, which are very thermally conductive pads, guys. Well, I hate using watts per meter Kelvin, but they were rated for 40. I mean, we could talk about that all day. But, so if you look down that list, in the middle area, you're going to start seeing G-lids. Let's see, G-lid Ultimates, 86 degrees Celsius memory junction temperature. 7 degrees hotter than some of the putties that we're testing. And that's on the old test bench where I wasn't logging ambient. In fact, I wasn't even looking at ambient. So this current chart you guys are looking at, super obsolete. We're not going to go off it anymore, but it's a good, fairly like rough reference point, and things could move around on the chart with this new testing that we're doing. And you know, hopefully something does move around a little bit, because that would show that I've actually made an improvement for, well, I think it's worthwhile making an improvement to this test, but either way, that it would be worthwhile if we get better, more accurate results, which I think they are. Taylor Sharp says, my 6700 XG came with the pads that seemed identical to G-Lit Extreme, and swapping to U6 Pro dropped 4 degrees memory, 5 degrees on the VRM. Pretty significant improvement compared to the new high-end pads. Yeah, totally. So your 6700, does it have, it actually shows VRM temperatures? That's cool. I might need to throw my 6800 on the test bench at some point and do some testing with it too. And see, I forgot that or well, I didn't realize actually that shows VRM temperatures. That would be, that's a nice sensor to have. I should, I don't know, to consider that. I don't really want to change my test bench right now. I want to get through testing everything with this card. I think it's a good card to test it out on. We are really just, we're only swapping the putty each time. Like the 3070 Ti, I mean, not the 3080 I'm doing right now. But just kind of narrowing it down to like one component. But maybe in the future, I should do a card where I do the entire thing in each product. I mean, that's going to be buying a whole bunch of putty again, because I'd probably need more than 50 grams. And if it was an AMD card, then I'd be able to log that stuff, so it'd be interesting. Yeah, EVGA is good. If anyone wants to look at that old chart, that's just on my my Upsiren U6 Pro video. I could probably spend ages cleaning this card and trying to get it just perfect, but I'm not worried about the a little bit of TGPP10 lying in between VRAMs or underneath some of the capped on tape. It's going to be okay. It's not going to hurt the card. I don't think it's going to hurt the thermals either. Almost done. I wonder how far you could lap the VRAM down to get closer to the actual memory chiplet. And, well, I don't know if chiplet's the right word, but it might be. And then just get better thermals by eliminating as much plastic as possible. That'd be interesting for like someone that's trying to set world records, like Kingpin himself. Wonder if he'll ever watch any of these videos. I emailed him. I emailed Vince, and I haven't heard back. Who knows? Maybe someday he'll respond. I was just inquiring regarding where did EVGA putty come from? That's what I want to know. And you know what, guys? We're gonna find it. We are gonna find out who makes EVGA putty, one way or the other. I don't think it was EVGA. Why do I say that? EVGA didn't build power supplies, okay? They resold power supplies. And EVGA makes electronics. They make video cards. They at least brand motherboards and customize them. I'd say they make motherboards. But to the best of my knowledge, they don't make power supplies, and that's actually in their field of, like, in the realm of possibility of what they could have made. So a thermal interface material, like material sciences, I just don't see them having a material sciences department dedicated to beating all these other multi-million-dollar thermal interface material companies. I don't think that's plausible. So, sorry, didn't realize this was off camera a little bit. I'm just cleaning up the shims. Taylor Sharp says it's actually an issue when MEM gets too cold. Not uncommon to use a heater for the memory when doing. Yeah, that's a good point. So, and that's also with what, NAND? Or like NVMEs need to run at least a certain temperature, I think, or do I have that right? What's the target? Like, if we start getting stuff to 50 degrees Celsius, is that where we stop for memory temperatures? Or do we keep going? It'd be nice to have a threshold to have in mind. I mean, and that's trying to run it at its, like, its fastest. Which I guess in gaming, you're burning less, well, it's not going to be as hot during most gaming, although ray tracing seems to warm it up a bit. With that, so when I did TGPP10 on the test bench card, I did more tests. I did FurMark, and then I did TimeSpy 1080p loop, and I also did Speedway 1080p loop with ray tracing on, and the ray tracing got the memory warmer than the TimeSpy did. So yeah, there's still a use case for memory being hot and cooling it down during gaming. And we've got the GDDR7 on the way. That stuff's going to be intense. I'm telling you, we're pretty sure, if the information I have is correct, it's stacked to increase density. So we're going to have, like, what is it going to be, like 5, 6, 7, 8 watts per VRAM? That'd be nuts if it's that high. Unless they put them side by side. If you're saying it's only a quarter of the size, could they fit, like, them side by side, I wonder? Either way, we're gonna have, it wouldn't matter either way. It's gonna have a higher power density of the VRAM. So you guys might see the these copper shims having what might appear like corrosion, but it's not. It's when I was sanding these on a block, the shiny part wasn't protruding enough. It was still fairly polished, and because it was just maybe just slightly bent from heating up while I was cutting it, and it was sanding the end, so that's why there's a different color on these copper shims. But you'll notice that fairly consistently, with the centers being kind of shiny and the edges being, with the exception of this one's all that matte copper finish. These are almost ready to go. Oh yeah, I was going to ask you guys, do you want to see me use thermal putty on the core again? Or should we go PTM or PCM1 or thermal paste? We're going to use U6 Pro with the shims and everywhere else, at least on the core side. I'm going to leave the back plate, to be honest. I don't want to I don't feel like spending that much time. I'm sure the TGPP10 is pretty happy back there. It'll be okay. Taylor Sharp says, yeah, NAND likes to be slightly warm for longevity. Maybe, yeah, I think that sounds, I feel like I read that somewhere, but, so I'll try not to make, I'll try not to make the memory less than 50-ish, or I'll stop and be like, well, that's the test card in ideal conditions. I guess I should take into account that, you know, I'm not having airflow issues here, and I'm also not testing the CPU at the same time because it is open air. We're really just testing the card. So if you had a closed case and 160 watt CPU burning and 4 DIMMs of RAM and maybe not the perfect airflow, then the temps are going to be higher. That's what my last test bench was. Everything was hotter because I didn't have the greatest airflow in that. It was consistent, but I wasn't. Still, these are better results. So yeah, Justin Vasquez, thanks for sticking around. We are going to use PTM on the core. All right, this might actually be good. So I loaded this up earlier because I was planning on maybe doing this card. So I put more U6 Pro in here. We're going to weigh it. I'll put the shims on and putty on top of this. Well, putty, shims, putty. We'll weigh it again, and we're going to see how much putty we use for 10 VRAM with copper shims. It's nice having 2 cameras. That stand though, not going to hurt VRAM. It can run cold. Just slightly limit your max memory OC. It's really cold. And bug it at 1L and 2. That makes sense. So yeah, we can keep going with trying to make cold. So here we go. We're putting this syringe on. 143. Am I going to remember that? 142. Do I have 141? 141. Okay. I'm not an auctioneer. Okay, we're going to go, we'll go close up, might as well. I've already cut this one earlier. So I'm really just gonna try and get a little bit on here, not too much. Wow. Okay, that can go there. Good times. I'll try not to waste too much here because we do want to get a fairly accurate weigh in. And so that can be enough. Now it's going to be too much. Okay, we're going to try it. So this is my method. Okay, yeah, I mean I shouldn't be handling the copper ideally, but I am gonna clean off this surface right after I put these on. So if I've used enough, we should see that it's pressing out. all four sides, which it is on that one. This one's good. So I'm gonna weigh. This will help me make sure I get this accurate. So this container currently weighs 28 grams. So we're gonna put any excess in there. We'll know how many grams we've trimmed, and then we'll still be able to get an accurate measurement. So the thing about when you use Kapton tape is that it's really slippery. So excess putty tends to come right off really easily. I mean, this stuff's pretty easy to work with for cleanliness because it's sticky, but it's closer to clay-like than it is sticky, I should say. Like I said previously, I like the consistency of it. Okay. Let's quickly make sure my finger oils are off of the copper. So obviously there's going to be a little bit of excess that I can't avoid, but that's accurate to how anyone else would be applying putty on shims. So our weigh-in will still be usable data point. Okay, let's get some putty going. You know, I probably should have... Well, it's too much. I probably should have put this in a smaller syringe. But I don't know. Overall, I'm happy enough with that. The more I touch it, the more I mess it up. You know, maybe a more liquidy putty would make this part easier, but who knows. So we had 28 before, the stuff that we trimmed. 33, so we got 5 grams that we need to add to whatever this weighs. 130, 131, so we're going to call it 136. So 142 minus 136 is not a lot of putty. That is 6 grams for 8 VRAM. Sorry, 10 VRAM. 0.6 grams per VRAM of GDDR6. Which we could calculate volumetrically too at some point so we can cross-reference for other putties. Yeah, I'm gonna make a thermal putty calculator for sure. So one thing, if you load up a syringe with too much putty, it does make it hard to press out. Okay, so I think that's all we needed to apply. Yeah, I'll measure it again, might as well. Excuse me. So 107. So what's 42 minus 7? We got 35. I used 35 grams on the core side with shims. You know, the back plate. There's quite a bit. I feel like I would still use like 60 or so. But I mean, some of this is excess, but it kind of comes with the territory. Okay. PTM 7950. Let's go get some. Just a sec. All right. I almost couldn't find it for a second there. That would have been embarrassing. Okay, so we've got a glass tempered screen protector. No. This is PTM 7950 from Honeywell. Let's see. See if I can get it to focus. Wow, that's brutal. It's not gonna focus, but a bunch of stuff I can't read here. But this one is rated at, well, it's got 0.25 millimeters thick, so. And this stuff I did buy directly from Mod DIY, which we are all considering to, well, they should definitely be legit. Yeah, so we're just gonna cut, is that wide enough? A little bit wider. Let me go grab some scissors and I'll be right back. You guys might have noticed I didn't store this in the fridge or freezer or anything, which I've gotten used to not lately. I've just kept it at room temperature and just used it when I needed it without too many issues. But we are going to need these. And I'm going to get a piece of tape just to secure that. Okay, so here we go. Tailor sharp. I wonder how much smaller than the die you could make it and still get full coverage once it melts. Yeah, you know what? Well, I don't want to take this open again, so we'll do that testing on the CPU on the test bench, and we'll have a few cracks at it. That's definitely worthwhile trying to figure that out. So I didn't use many of these, so I can use as many as I want on this one. So for those of you watching this later or now, if you're having a hard time getting the first layer plastic, just use 2 stickers and like that, or the tweezer method works good as well. So now I've got the 2 corners. We'll do a little structure. Okay, so Taylor, you're the expert about this one. Do I use that little guitar pick tool now and just make it easier to press down so the edge of the die? I shouldn't hurt the die too much. I don't think it's plastic, so first we're just going to make sure it's pretty smooth. We are going to press it on there with our fingers first. And I'm going to try this guitar pick method, and oh, there's a so I could use a little spatula, press it at a 45 to the edge of the silicone to cut it. I mean, I've got the pick right here, but oh, you know what? This feels good in the hand. I'm going to do this. Maybe I'm going to use a spatula. I keep changing my mind. Okay, if I don't get it perfect this time, at least I can practice. That side feels well cut. This side, hard to tell for sure. Okay, let's try it. See if I have tweezers close by or not. I do. Nice. I just got meaty fingers, so I don't really... You should be able to see if it's cut. Oh, okay. Oh, totally. You, good sir, are correct. You can see that right side. The camera's not picking up perfectly, but it's my application. But it is cut along here really well. And then this edge, I'm going to work on it a bit more. I can see how this would be a lot easier to do on a CPU. And I hope I'm not keeping any of you guys up super late past your bedtimes. I feel like this is probably the longest stream I've done. And it's what, stream number 5 or 6 or something like that? What? Totally. Look at that. I mean, yeah, I could have pressed out bubbles more. Picture perfect, eh? That's awesome, man. Sweet tip. Because the worst part is if it peels up, which is what I've had a couple times, you can kind of, you press it all down, you get all the bubbles out, and then you like try and peel the last plastic, and what usually happens is that first little quarter of it peels up. So I don't know. I'm pretty stoked. PTM, let's go. What I'm realizing is I didn't fully clean up the cooler. We're gonna quickly touch that up and then slap this bad boy together and send it to the mines of Moria. How's the audio? Hopefully it doesn't sound too bad when I get loud like that. I played around with filters last night, so I'm hoping it's much better than it was a couple days ago. Because admittedly, the audio wasn't great. And it's not the mic or the, what is it, like the wind filter I've got on it. I've got a Shure SM7, sorry, Shure MV7, not the SM7B. MV7, which is either USB or XLR. Currently I'm using it with USB and just the simple software they have built in, and then I've got filters set up in OBS that I watched YouTube to recreate. So, and I spent maybe 30 or 40 bucks on the pop filter, and it's one that's designed for one of their like studio mics. So it's a pretty decent filter. It's like a foam, a big fat foam cone that sticks on the mic. Wow, there's still quite a few of you here. Cloudyak, audio is good. Thanks. I don't think I've seen you in stream before. Welcome to the Snarks Domain stream. Hope your night's going well. Taylor Sharp, I've got a compressor on my end, so it always sounds good. That's awesome. I need to learn more about compressors and expanders, and take a further stab at playing around with that. But you have like a hardware compressor probably. Justin Vasquez with the big thumbs up. Thanks, buddy. Okay, what am I doing here? We got putty and shims. There, capped on tape, which we left. VRM in caps, VRM in caps. PC, not PCM, PTM 7950 sheet from Mod DIY on the core using the new Taylor Sharp method. Well, new to me. I mean, you clearly knew about that, and you told me about it a while ago, I think. So I was just slow on the uptake. So my bad. We are going to flip things around here. Gotta plan this out. I should probably do the 3. Is that fairly long? Oh, sorry, I changed my mind, guys. I do it this way. This is gonna be really awkward, but it's gonna make sense. The only thing I wish video card manufacturers would do is have longer cables for these fans, and just even a few more, I don't know, 5-6 centimeters would be nice. Okay, so I've got those 3 plugged in. I'm trying to avoid core and putty contact until I can get this around here. And this one is just slightly longer. That is difficult. Not something I want out to do every day. Okay, so we still have not had putty touchdown, which is what we were going for. Oh, I've created a bit of tension. Uh-oh. What am I doing wrong? Sorry guys, I am just struggling here. Wow, of all the things to get caught, it was a post in a screw hole. Everything looks good. Yes. That was the most painful set down of a GPU I've done in a while, but we got through it and didn't break anything. I am going to also have to blow this card out, but I'm going to do that after it's assembled, which I am comfortable with that. So we are going to get some screws lined up in the corners first, just to get them started. Just to make sure everything's in alignment. Might as well just get them all cracked started. So the interesting thing with using a phase change pad on the core is so 0.25 of a millimeter, we're adding 0.25 of a millimeter initially to the gap between the VRAM and the cooler, which we filled with putty and shims. Now the putty's going to do great at initially compensating and having contact right away. And as we heat the card up, the phase change material should melt, and the clamping pressure should bring everything back together in unison, and the putty should remain soft enough to also further compress and be an ideal setup. So Cyberman, is CPU GPU pasting enough for laptop. If the putty on the other things dried out and I don't have Upsiren CPU, GPU, PTM 7950 pasting would be CPU, GPU, PTM 7950 pasting would be enough. Are you saying that if you don't have a PCM, if you can use paste, or are you asking if Honeywell PTM 7950 is okay? To which I would say both of them, yes. You could either go with the PTM 7950, you could use the paste style. You would need to let it cure for 24 hours to evaporate all the solvents out and then assemble if you used a paste form. If you use normal thermal paste like Thermal Grizzly or Noccho or anything, yeah, you can go ahead and put that on. Don't use Arctic Silver 5 on your GPU core unless you've used some conformal coating. It does technically conduct electricity, I believe, so something to watch for. Okay, so I'm going to show you guys my technique with these X brackets. I got that thread started, and that one started. It's still loose. It's not really applying any force. I'm going to press down here and the other corner while I use the screwdriver in this one and get it started, and then started. So CRAN, I'm going to do CPU and GPU. I think that's what you mean with 7950, and I don't have Upsiren for with the other things like VRM, VRM, or other things that are called. Okay, so yeah, like the VRM, the caps, and the VRAM are the three components I usually refer to. So you could just leave. It's a laptop. What brand of laptop, actually? Oh, are you saying Upsiren for other things? Yes. Yeah, like other than the VRAM, you could totally use Putty everywhere on a laptop, but I would still use, obviously, the phase change pad on the core and the CPU. I'm doing an imperfect start pattern here. Sorry, guys. That's what happens when I get talking. But yeah, it'd be interesting to know what brand laptop you have there, Sieberman, and thanks for checking out the stream. Yeah, Taylor Sharp, you got a good point with the CXH 1300 being a little more soft and pliable, and was it even stickier? I think I'll have to double check again, but it is an ideal hoodie for a laptop, and I hope to get accurate results tomorrow on it again on the test bench. I feel bad for having not a perfect putty application for the test. It's the whole point of doing this, so I kind of lost 8 hours of work, but work play. It's not really work. I have fun. So Superman says, no, I don't have any putty, so I'm asking if only GPU, well, CPU, GPU, PTM 7950 is enough, or do I need putty for other things too? I don't want a thermal throttle. Okay, if you don't have anything else, then when you open it up, there will already be, oh, that was a lot. There will already be thermal pads or a thermal putty in place where the VRAM is and all that stuff right from the manufacturer. And if it's pads, you can just leave those in place, right? You don't have anything to replace them with. Don't go slathering on a boatload of like thermal paste instead and thinking that's going to do the trick by itself. But yeah, you should probably be fine. Do they cause thermal throttling? Yes. And for a laptop, maybe not, but maybe. They would have a, well, I guess the GPU hotspot. Most laptops, at least almost all of them that I know of, use GDDR6, which runs cooler than 6X. and they don't always have sensors that we can see on the laptop VRAM. I think AMD does, which is awesome on AMD's part. But if your RAM gets really hot, your GPU hotspot will go up, and they throttle at what, 83 or 87 degrees Celsius. So yeah, you're going to run into throttling issues if there's no cooling on the VRAM on a laptop. Of course, it shares a cooler with the CPU. I guess it does in this case too, but this cooler is massive compared to what a laptop has. So see, what if my thermal pads or thermal putty dried out? I need replacing, but I don't have putty. Should I leave them alone? Okay, I actually have a good video, kind of, regarding this exact scenario. Let me, if you go to my channel on YouTube, which you have access to now, and you look at my video, what will happen if I put paste on thermal pads from, what was that, like 2 months ago? Let me find you the link real quick. And this is exactly one of the scenarios that we're just gonna do media. So if you go to Snark's Domain YouTube channel, here we go, 2 months ago. What happens if we put thermal paste onto thermal pads? Try and, it's muted. So I borrowed another Zotac 3070 Ti Amp Hollow Edition from my friend. I've got access to like 4 or 5 of these, I think, theoretically. Yeah, you can watch that later if you like, but I just talk about different scenarios. I'm just looking at, like, these are different pads on a different card. Oh, I think I talk about a whole bunch of stuff, but I basically, oh yeah, you'll have to watch that video on your own at some point, but that is where it is. And that's, yeah, exactly what that video is all about. Is if you had pads that were crumbly or falling apart or dried out, lacking oil or whatever, you could almost take those, well, you could just paste them and then slap it back together, and then you would know to buy putty and you could still go and play for a while. But if the pads were soft enough, you know, is there anything wrong with just crumbling them up and mixing them with a bit of thermal paste and treating it like a putty for a short period of time? That'd be interesting to test out as well. I feel like that screw is damaged. I need to stop forcing it. That's what I need to do. So Cyberman, I'm not going to use thermal paste for the place where the pink putty was used. That's good. I only have PTM for the CPU. Perfect. So I don't know if you mentioned which brand of laptop that you have, but if by chance, if it's a Lenovo, then I think you already have thermal putty on it, and I think some of the newer Asus laptops also use thermal putty. I mean, everyone's using thermal putty these days. You got the new AMD cards, you got PlayStation 5s, quite a few cell phone brands. You don't want any short-term solution, that's why you bought PT. Oh, that's a good point. Acer Nitro 5. You know what? Let's take a look here. Nitro 5. Tear down. What do we got? Is this Acer Nitro? Disassembly from, say? No. Yeah, you guys are watching my stream just to watch other YouTube videos, but Let's find out. What does this stuff have? Okay, so he's got not tons of heat pipes there. If you ever need to mod this, even after the fact, after you've done your application below this cooler, you could add some more heat pipes just to increase. Maybe put one here, somehow tie it in there. Maybe do a couple straight across there just to increase. If you want to know all the heat pipe mods you can do on a laptop, then go to the Legion Discord, and those guys do all sorts of stuff. You know what? This guy didn't do what I thought he was going to do. We're going to watch this real quick and see. So it's the AN51554 model. Okay, it's going to be similar to this, so let's just take a look as far as product, what they use. Hopefully this guy takes the cooler off. Come on. Does he? No? Wow, what a waste of time. That sucks. Let's just pause it here though. I want to take a look at this. So, it's metal. No, if it were me, I'd probably, if I was modding it, I would add is that like tape there, add a bunch of putty and shim, get some like more mass here, and then try and add some, I don't know, it takes a bit of time and some putty to do it, but even long term it'll perform way better than it is now with only PTM. So yeah, we've got let's see. Oh yeah. Copper shims, a little bit of excess putty, nothing crazy. Yeah, there's some in that fan grill. I'll get a toothpick, run it in there, and flatten that down. It's looking good. Oh. I'm just going to do one last thing. So I always like to isopropyl Q-tip clean this PCI Express connector, because we keep jamming stuff in and out of our motherboards. You do it often enough, dust accumulates in there and it gets dirty, but you can blow it out. But how often do people actually clean their PCI Express slots? Better to keep it clean in the first place if you can. Alright, gents. Wow, it's past midnight. Thanks for stopping by. I don't know, does anyone have any other questions or comments they'd like to make? Sorry, Cyberman, let's get back to your laptop. It might be worthwhile. I don't know what if your laptop's hurting right now, but if you wanted to, and I'll be testing out some putties from DigiKey that'll actually ship fairly quickly. Like within a couple days, you can get like 2-3 day shipping sometimes. I'll be testing that out in the next day and a half, 2 days here. And you could order some putty from DigiKey, and if they have it in stock, it'll ship really quickly. Like if this A7000 that we just put on the test card before opening up this 3080, we opened up the 3070 Ti. Oh my gosh, the internet broke. There's two video cards side by side. 3080 Ti. Sorry, 3080, 3070 Ti. It's interesting because they're almost the same weight, but oh man, that looks good with the green putty, eh? The 3070 Ti is just from Zotac, it's just massive. Oh, your comments are working now. I'm seeing them. I don't know if you're having issues on your end or not, but okay, so it might be worth buying some thermal putty if you, especially if you invested in PTM. And you could go with an AliExpress brand like CX-H1300 or Upsiren U6 Pro. Or another viable option would be getting something from DigiKey. And I will be testing those in the next couple of days, so feel free to check out those streams or videos if you want to before making a decision. And I really hope that you get good results either way and are happy. So, oh, it probably does block links. I will have to look and see if I can. I don't know how to change permissions regarding links. I'm not that smart yet. I'm inside OBS Studios. If I can figure that out, I will at some point. But if you want to, Cyberman, if you have a question or something, Cooling Monster YouTube channel, I'll have to check that out. You can also email me at snarksdomain@gmail.com, which is listed in on my channel. And Cooling Monster. Okay, I will check out the Cooling Monster channel and videos. Looks like he does some cool stuff. Nice. He's got lots of pasting and ripping stuff open. That might be, oh, what is thermal paste viscosity? I'll definitely check out that video and channel. So thanks for sharing that. Taylor Sharp, I saw the teardown and it looks like you should be able to reuse the putty. I would mold it back on the VRAM. So it was squished. Oh, are you saying that this guy probably has, Cooling Monster probably has a teardown of your laptop? So I'll check into that as well. Yeah, just get some nitrile or rubber gloves and just reuse the putty if it's got putty, and you're probably going to be just a-okay. Yeah, mold it back. So if you watch some of these streams where I've been working on this card, and I just keep reshaping the old TGPP10 on the VRMs and caps, and I'm only testing out on the VRAM itself with like these different combinations. So if you do the same with your laptop and just reshape it, then you should be good. Cyberman Taylor Sharp, what if the putty is removed and I don't have any? Are you saying that you opened up, Cyberman, are you saying you opened up your laptop already and cleaned stuff off and tossed it? Excuse me. Because if that's the case, you definitely want to get at least thermal pads or something to put there. Putty or thermal pads would be preferable. I don't think I would do shims on a laptop just because of the mobility factor and all that. But yeah, you're definitely going to want to get something that you can use to transfer heat. Yeah. But I think that's going to wrap it up for me for tonight. And thanks for tuning in for so long, guys. I'm going to get this test card back on the test bench, and we're gonna get it going. Yeah. You guys have a great night, and I'll be on tomorrow sometime doing some more testing. And I hope you guys have a great night. Thanks again for tuning in.